Okay, here we have just an image I've done in Photoshop. I pulled into Photoshop from Lightroom, or just open the file. Now I've just done a black and white conversion layer here. You can see what that's doing. It's a basic black and white conversion. You can get that down here, black and white. That's the same thing. And it changes. You can see there what that layer does. It just converts to black and white. You can play with the sliders a little bit. The yellows usually bring out the yellows a bit brighter, and the blues bring the sky back to darker. So I'll get rid of that now, but that's all that layer is doing. The main reason what I want to show here is how we can dramatically make a dramatic black and white here. So what I usually use is a exposure layer. Here we go here. Now exposure will darken everything sort of evenly, and then we'll paint in or mask in some highlights. So I usually just do the top sliders opposite each other, the top and the bottom. Do not touch the offset, it just does some weird stuff. I don't really understand what it's doing. So just keep that at 0, 0, 0 all the time, but just do the top two. Now sort of make a sort of judgment here of how dark you want your darkest to be. Try to keep some detail in your blacks, but you really want to squash those blacks so there's hardly any detail in it, because what we're going to do is paint in back to the original layer underneath, which is the original exposure. So there we have the exposure layer. That's quite dramatic, and we can even make it darker than that. But what I want to do is get a brush up here in the brush panel. Go to brush, get a tip like this. Go up here to change your tip and say something like 45. Up here we got the modes of the brush. It's always got to be normal, opacity, probably somewhere around a third, 30% flow. That just affects how long the stroke. If you longer hold down the button, it sort of peters out at 65%. If you have it on 100%, as long as you hold the button in, it'll keep on painting. But if you have it on flow, 50% or 30%, even though you hold the button on it, it will fade out. So it's good for sort of just building things up subtly. So here we have a brush here. Now, just here on the palette here, there's black and white to convert your colours to black and white. So if this was a different colour, if we want to get back to black and white, we can go here. We can reverse the colours here. Now what we want to do here is paint on the opposite here. So this is black, this is white, so we want to paint with black. That will reveal what's underneath, which is going to be this layer here. Now you can do some number of things. You can change the size of your brush. You can right click and change the size there. Also on here we want our hardness down to 0. Hardness is the softness around the edge of the brush. So you can see now if I start painting, just holding the mouse in, I can start to bring back highlights. I can change my brush size bigger by right clicking, making the size bigger, right up to about 400. And because I'm doing it subtly, I can paint in sort of areas like this, and I can paint it in like that and just bring back some highlights here. So it's a good idea to zoom out. I've done that with the scroll wheel, but you can go other methods of zooming out with this tool here. For example, zoom out and zoom in. You hold the Alt key to go the other way. But yes, back to the brush, and again just painting sort of areas where we want the light to hit. We want a bit of light on the bank there, and we want some light in the foreground here. So we're just really just making it sort of abstract. We're making it so dark, and we're just having some highlights. And you can zoom right in and change your brush size and keep on going and building it up. Because we're at this lower percentage and the flow low, we're building up. It's not completely coming through at the moment. So you can build a few of these up, and it's good to have blacks against white like we have against here. Some high contrast areas that really taps the eye to there. So be careful in like holes in here. We can always, if we go over the line like we did there, this is the change. If you've gone too far, you'd switch your colours around here, black to white and white to black. You'll see it's the same as the white area here in the background, and you just paint back in here, and that brings it back to where it was. So it's back to the normal dark exposure. So again, you see what we're doing here. If we look at the mask, we can do that by holding down the Alt key and click on that. You can see what we're doing here. We're painting back white here. Wherever we're painting black, I'm just going to switch. Wherever we're painting dark, it's going to affect it. So when we go back here, you can see what that's done. Again, mask on and off. You can see here the black area here is where we're letting through the layer underneath. So that's sort of really what I want to show you. If you really want to get really dramatic, you can duplicate that layer. Command J, Control J, and then make that overlay or some other mode. You can really sort of, even in normal mode, and change the opacity, it still amplifies the effect. See that there? And we've got the same mask on there. So if you really want to build it up, you can do it that way, or you can just simply just trash that. If you really want it darker again, you can always move these sliders further apart. So that's sort of the effect. You can see here that I've gone over the limit there. Again, back to your brush. Make sure you've got white here, so you can flip that there and then paint in there. Now if it's taking too much time, you can always change your opacity up here and just really block it in. We're going back to the original. Now again, you can get really subtle with this or quite dramatic. You can see there it's coming back to the original. If we want to, we can get in here really close and make the brush smaller, change it back to black and change the opacity, say about 50%, and then we can paint that in again. Alright, thanks for your help with that one. Hope that one helps.